Everybody. Let me refer now to 1973 and 1974, and I am definitely a teenager now. And a whole different context now as far as development. I'm going to do this in multiples of years here, I think, instead. By then, you begin to take on a different context of your teenage years in development. You begin to understand a little bit more around the world around us. Okay? You're beginning to grow up. For me, my parents told me that curiosity, growth, maturity goes on indefinitely. They told me that if they shared the beliefs, I would never learn them. So go out in Deerfield and learn them and come back to us and let you know what we learn. Isn't that fantastic, that early of an age? And I understand I'm extremely fortunate in that respect to learn what's true about myself in that respect. I attended Alan B. Shepard Junior High, and Coach Nelson and Sullivan of the physical PE, physical education, had influence on me. A.E. Savage and I in 8th grade, I think that's going to be in 1975. Well, that's close enough to it. Okay, we became the top athletes. I became an avid jogger, especially in 8th grade, and took on trends in that respect. I continued to see Wayne J. Cole. I began to understand more. There on Channel 2, there was Walter Jacobson. Lots of influence on me. I was beginning to understand the world around me a little bit more. Just beginning to. See, now you can understand it. What age does that occur? I'm not sure exactly, but by recollection, there's a definite, it begins, right around, I think, 9, 10 years old, you begin to pick up more, but definitely, by the time 73, 74, I'm 13 and 14. I'm in the very beginning of my teenage years. And I have to honestly say, it's a great experience. I was an achiever to take wise substance and build on it. See, because I would build on that curiosity. Very fortunate in that respect. I've learned a lot. My understanding is I'd be considered on the high side of intelligence, but everyone, I believe, is equal in that respect. But how do I know that at age 13 or 14? The only thing I know is that, hey, if the beliefs, we tell you the beliefs, you'll never learn them. You'll go out there and come back to us and share with us what you've learned. And of course, parents, mentor you and counsel you, but they were very careful about those beliefs they impressed on me, because if I'm just told it's that way, I would never learn it. And I understand I'm extremely fortunate in that respect. It's gone on throughout my entire life. I was researching the social sciences. I was reading books about it. Very early age. As far as my career, I was beginning to learn a tremendous amount of substance. And very, very fortunate in an environment that, couldn't be much better. In fact, I rode my bike, I got to 10-speed, and I followed the electro lines. I didn't know where they went. I went all the way down Waukegan Road, and I got into Lake Forest, and I didn't know anything. I was like, oh, this is long enough. In fact, Bannockburn, I became an avid jogger. As I mentioned, in 8th grade, A.E. Savage and I were the top athletes for junior high. I used to jog to school all the time, 8th grades particularly, okay? I really took that counsel, and it was great. And so, the biggest factor there is where my parents let me know that curiosity growth and maturity goes on indefinitely. That happened by the time I was 14. Things were changing. I believe my grandmother had passed away about that time. So I was learning. We still would go to the cousins, for the holidays. And I had my grandfather. He lived to be a very ripe age. And so we begin, I believe that if I were to look at development, you begin to be able to take adult substance and comprehend it by the time you're 13 or 14. I was going to the television shops. I was understanding a lot more about electronics. I was researching, tremendous amount. I was still a kid, okay? It takes, sure, it's quite a bit different compared to earlier years, the beginning of the teenage years. So thank you very much. Now I'm going to touch upon, I'm going to label this 1974 and 1975, 14 or 15. And it was a great upbringing. Thank you very much for investing the time to understand me.